New Mexico Territory, 1887. Dawn crawled over Ash Hollow like pale ash, the wind teasing a dry hymn from the saloon's crooked sign. Wagons rattled. A rooster coughed once and gave up. The church bell tapped the cold air like a spoon against tin. Dust lifted off Main Street in thin veils, clinging to hems and hopes. Eliza Rowan stepped into that wind with two boys at her side and a ring burning her palm. Somewhere far off, a well sighed like an old secret remembering its name. She pushed through the mercantile door. Hinges squealed. Toby kept one hand on her skirt. Little Micah scuffed the toe of his boot on a knothole and stared at the barrels of beans like they might start singing. Behind the counter, Maud Kitteridge didn't smile. Eliza set the silver band down. Bread. Maud turned it with a dry finger. Not worth a loaf. It was, Eliza said. Once. Once don't pay suppliers. Maud slid the ring back. Try the preacher, or the sheriff if you fancy paper. Paper won't fill a boy. From the doorway's sun-gray glare, a shadow filled the frame. Asa Stone, big as a barn door, shoulders like beams, eyes the color of river rock. He said nothing, but the room felt smaller. Eliza lifted her chin. You got work? Asa's gaze flicked to the boys. You got hands? Two of 'em, and two mouths to feed. Then come. Maud's mouth tilted. You'll mend more than shirts out there. Eliza took the ring, slid it into her pocket without looking at it. I'll mend what's torn. They crossed the street, the boys stepping wide to dodge wagon ruts. Asa led them past the livery, past the gallows that leaned like it regretted its own shadow, and out toward the brown shoulder of Stone Mesa Ranch. The sun climbed. Heat pressed low. Eliza's throat felt lined with grit. She remembered a colder road, Thomas Rowan coughing in the dark of another town, her own hands counting pills like prayers. Time 500. The memory closed, neat and cruel. On the rise, Asa slowed his long stride and, without a word, lifted Micah to the saddle of a swayback horse tied at the fence. He tilted his hat toward Toby. Up you get. Toby hesitated, then climbed. Eliza walked beside them, her boots whispering over sandburr and broken grass. She watched Asa's hands, big, careful, steady. He carried silence like other men carried rifles. The ranch rose out of the wash like a weathered hymn. Low house, long porch, a windmill ticking tired quarters. The smell of old smoke and leather. No curtains, no paint worth naming. A well crouched near the porch with a wooden cap and a frayed rope cinched to a bucket. The dog under the steps didn't bark. It only watched. Asa opened the door with a nudge of his knuckles. You mend. I'll feed 'em, nothing else. I'll earn it, Eliza said. Good. Inside, shadows lived in the rafters. A long table bore knife marks and coffee rings. Eliza set the boys at the end bench and rubbed a thumb across the table's grooves. She could almost see other hands there, other mornings. Asa moved like a quiet storm between stove and shelf. He cut thick bread, spooned beans, set tin cups down with a soft ring. Micah reached. Toby waited. Eliza nodded, and the boys ate. She didn't lift her own spoon until their bowls were empty. Asa leaned a hip against the counter, arms folded, watching the door as if trouble had a habit. Eliza set to work with a needle, pulling thread through a split seam on a work shirt she'd plucked from a wooden pole. The cloth remembered a man. Her hands remembered hunger. Stitch shift. Stitch shift. Breath. By mid-afternoon, the wind curled strange, carrying a tang that didn't belong to cattle or creek. Oil faint and sour. Asa's jaw ticked. He set his plate down, went to the porch, and stood very still, hat brim cutting the sun from his eyes. "What is it?" Eliza asked. He didn't answer. Somewhere up the shallow draw, metal clanked. A bird shot out of the cottonwood like a thought too late. Asa stepped off the porch, slow and deliberate, and crossed to the well. He set a hand on the cap, listening like a man who knew the language of boards and nails. "Boys," Eliza said. Inside, Toby grabbed Micah's hand. They obeyed. Eliza stayed. "You hear that?" Asa didn't look at her. "Water shouldn't talk. Sometimes it prays. Not like that." A small sound fluttered the air, like a match scratching bone. Then a dull pop came up from the earth's throat, and the well shivered under Asa's palm. He dropped, pulling Eliza down with him, his arm a wall. "Stay low." The cap rattled, lifted a breath, settled. From the gap, a thin sheen crept across the lip and ran down the stone like quicksilver. In the light, it looked like metal melted into a mirror. It smelled wrong. Eliza tasted tin and tar at the back of her tongue. "Get the boys," Asa said. She crawled, gathered her sons with quick hands, tucked them behind the doorframe. In the yard, the wind changed again, hotter, meaner. Eliza's mind flashed a brittle picture. Thomas bent over a survey stake, tapping numbers into a notebook, the ground humming under his boots. The doctor had called it fever. She had called it a lie. Asa circled the well, scanning the dirt for sign. His eyes narrowed. He dropped to one knee and lifted a splintered chip that had been wedged against the stone. Letters burned into the grain, black and neat. B, W, C. He brought it to Eliza. She didn't touch it at first. She knew the shape of men who etched their names into other people's water. "What's that stand for?" Toby asked. Asa's mouth drew tight. "Blackwell Consolidated." "Is it bad?" Micah said, bottom lip shining with bean grease and worry. Eliza took the chip, weighed it in her palm. "It's a company that thinks the earth is for sale." Asa glanced toward the road, a line of pale dust barely moving in the distance. "And they collect fast." A silence fell, thick but not empty. Asa's eyes met Eliza's, a question and a warning, something like apology already bruising under the surface. The dog under the steps whined once and went still. From town, a single bell note drifted, thin as a thread. Eliza tucked the wood chip into her pocket where the ring lay cold. 2 pieces of a life she didn't want but would not ignore. She steadied her breath and looked at the well again. The sheen along the stones caught the sun, bright as a lie with good manners. Asa stepped closer. "You and the boys sleep inside tonight." "We'll earn our keep," Eliza said. "You already are." Evening slouched over Stone Mesa. The windmill ticked the hour with an old wrist. Eliza washed the tin cups and set them upside down to dry. In the open doorway, the ranch looked like a prayer said through teeth. Asa stood there with a rifle he had not bothered to hide. He listened to the ground more than the sky. Out on the road, a dot separated from the horizon and began to grow. Horse first, badge next, paper after. Asa's shoulders squared, just a little. Eliza touched the pocket where Ring and BWC slept together like enemies. She thought of bread, of boys, of water that talked when it shouldn't, and of men who signed lines that cut a valley into ribs. The rider turned up the lane. The sheriff's boots creaked against the porch as the last light bled off the mesa. His badge caught a thread of dying sun. Asa didn't move from the doorway. Eliza stood behind him, the boys peeking from the shadows, smelling the dust of law and smoke. "Inspection," Sheriff Briggs said, voice rough with habit. "Blackwell Consolidated filed complaint. Says your well don't read right." Asa's jaw tightened. "It's my land. My water." Briggs unfolded the notice, slow as a sermon. "Paper says otherwise. Ain't personal, Stone. Just procedure." "Procedure don't come armed," Asa said, nodding at the revolver heavy on Briggs's hip. Briggs smiled thin. "World's rough. You know that." His gaze slid past Asa to Eliza. "New help?" "Temporary," Asa said. "Town talks faster than telegraph," Briggs murmured. "Just keep it decent." He tipped his hat, handed over the paper, and turned down the path. "Enjoy the quiet while it lasts." They watched him go until dust swallowed the outline. Asa didn't look at Eliza. "You and the boys stay inside tonight." She nodded. "We will." When darkness came, it settled heavy. The house smelled of pine smoke and starch. Eliza set the boys on the bedroll near the hearth, pulled her shawl close and listened to the wood pop like faraway gunfire. The place had no laughter, no echo of life, only the rhythm of wind scraping against shutters. Toby whispered, "He's not like other men." Eliza brushed his hair back. "No, he isn't." She waited until their breathing evened, then stood. The night outside was pale and mean. The windmill turned lazy circles, moaning at each gust. From the porch, she saw Asa's shape against the barn, sharpening a blade under the lantern's swing. Every stroke sparked silver. She almost asked why he stayed awake, but the words stuck. Later, when the fire dimmed, a sound stirred. The soft pulse of something deep beneath the boards. It wasn't wind. It wasn't the creek. It was the well. Eliza rose again, careful not to wake the boys. Time 400 mems. Her bare feet met cold dirt as she stepped outside. The moon hung like a nail. The bucket rope trembled on its own. She crouched, listening. A slow inhale, then a faint exhale, thick and wet. She felt the hairs on her arm rise. "Asa," she whispered. He appeared behind her, rifle half lifted. "Get back inside. There's something," I said, inside. But she didn't move. "It's breathing." The rope jerked once like something alive pulled at it. Asa caught it before it vanished into the black. "Back," he ordered. The rope went slack. He leaned over, lowering the lantern. The light caught the glint of water rippling, metallic and dark. Eliza covered her mouth. "That's not water." "Oil, maybe," Asa muttered. "Or poison." The air carried a tang like coins and lightning. He dropped the bucket, pulled the lid down, sealed it with a boot heel. "No one drinks from here till I say." They went back inside. He stoked the fire without looking at her. The orange light carved lines down his face. Old lines, made by guilt more than years. "You've seen it before," she said. He didn't answer. "You knew." "I knew something was wrong. You should have told me." "I don't tell what I can't fix." She stared at him across the table. "And when you can't fix it?" He met her eyes. "Then I keep it quiet." Micah stirred in his sleep. Toby rolled closer to his brother, muttering. The silence thickened until it felt like a third presence in the room, watching, waiting. When the fire sank low, Asa rose. "You'll take the back room, boys too." "You don't have to. It's the warmest one." She wanted to thank him, but found no words that didn't sound like surrender. He left the door open a crack. Through it she saw him sit by the table, head bent, hands clenched like a man who'd prayed once and stopped halfway. Hours later, thunder rolled somewhere beyond the hills, though no storm followed. She dreamed of her husband again, Thomas at a drawing table, ink smearing across a map. He looked up, said something she couldn't hear. Then the paper burned to ash in his hands. Eliza woke with her heart racing. The sound from the well came again, softer now, like whispering metal. She pressed a palm to the wall. It was warm. Morning brought no answers, only gray sky and the smell of iron. Asa was already outside, splitting logs. The boys watched him from the doorway, chewing on cold bread. Eliza cleaned the dishes, then wandered the porch. Beside the well, prints marked the dirt. Boots, not his. The tread was sharper, military. She knelt, tracing one with her fingertip. "Asa," she called. He came over, brow low. "Where'd you find that?" "Here. Someone's been close." He squatted, touched the edge of a print. "Sheriff's men wear souls like that." "You think he came back?" He glanced toward the ridge. "Maybe he never left." Eliza turned, scanning the hills. The morning light crawled over the land like thin milk, revealing nothing. But she felt it. Eyes on her, patient and distant. "Should we move?" she asked. He shook his head. "You run. They'll say we're hiding something." "What are we hiding, Asa?" He didn't answer, only reached down and pressed a hand against the ground near the well. Something that won't stay buried. Inside, the boys began to laugh over some private joke. The sound startled them both. It was the first laughter that House had heard in years. Asa looked toward the door, expression unreadable. Eliza said quietly, "Maybe that's worth keeping alive." He nodded once. "Then keep them close." The sun climbed, pale and uncertain. Beyond the fence, a lone rider watched, turned his horse, and vanished toward Dry Needle Ridge. By morning, the wind had turned colder, brushing frost along the porch rails. A small figure appeared on the ridge, leading a burro draped with herbs and colored cloth. The scent of sage reached before her voice. "You keep poor company, Asa Stone," she said, smiling with only half her mouth. Eliza stepped out, the boys behind her. The woman's braids were streaked with silver, her eyes bright as flint. Asa said, "Tala Yazi, haven't seen you since the fort." "That's because I stopped looking at forts," Tala replied. She glanced toward the well. "The wind hums wrong. Your land bleeds silver." Eliza frowned. "Silver?" Tala knelt, pressed her palm flat to the ground, whispered in Diné, "Not the kind that buys jewelry, the kind men kill for." Asa shifted, uneasy. "You're hearing ghosts again." Tala rose, brushed her hands. "Maybe. Or maybe your ghosts are breathing." She handed Eliza a bundle of herbs. "Boil this. It'll keep the little ones from coughing when the wind shifts." Eliza nodded. "Thank you." Tala studied her for a long beat. "You're not from here." "No." "Then learn fast. This place remembers everything." The boys followed Tala to her mule, curious about the charms tied to its pack. Toby asked, "Do they work?" Tala smiled. "Only if you believe they do." Asa returned to chopping wood, but his rhythm faltered. The name of the fort lingered between them like an old wound. Later, when Tala left, Eliza found him cleaning a rifle at the workbench. "She said something strange," Eliza began. "She always does. She said the land bleeds silver." He looked up. "And you believe her?" "I don't know what I believe, but the water shone last night." His silence was its own confession. That afternoon, Eliza went to hang laundry behind the barn. The wind pulled at the sheets, snapping them like sails. Near the fence line, she saw a flash of brass, a bullet casing half buried in dirt. She picked it up, rubbed it, clean, new, unfired. Asa appeared behind her. "You shouldn't wander out here." "Then tell me what we're hiding from." He took the casing from her hand, turned it between his fingers. "Sometimes it's better not to know. I've had enough of not knowing." Their eyes met. The distance between them felt measured in years, not steps. Inside the house, the boys were quiet, drawing shapes in the dust. Eliza looked down and saw what Toby had traced. A circle with a line cutting through, 3 letters beside it. B. "Where'd you see that?" she asked. "On the fence post by the road," Toby said. It looked important. Eliza's stomach tightened. She walked outside, followed the boy's description to the fence. The symbol was carved deep, blackened with pitch. Asa joined her, grim. They marked it. Marked what? Our boundary. He spat into the dirt. That's their way of saying they own what's underneath. Do they? They think money makes it so. Then why don't you stop them? I did once, he said quietly. Before she could ask, a gunshot cracked somewhere beyond the ridge. Birds lifted in a dark cloud. Asa froze, eyes narrowing. Inside. Now. The boys ran. Eliza hesitated. It sounded far. Far comes close fast. He saddled his horse, checked the rifle. Stay with the children. Lock the door. Where are you going? To see if ghosts carry guns. He rode off, dust curling behind him. Eliza waited at the window, heart ticking like a clock that had lost time. Minutes dragged until the horizon bled orange with late sun. Then she saw him returning, slower, shoulders set. When he dismounted, she met him halfway. Was it them? He handed her something small, a brass button shaped like a star, dulled by dirt. Eliza turned it over. Military? Cavalry issue. I used to wear one. You fought? He nodded. For promises that broke quick. She hesitated. And now? Now I mend fences instead of people. That night, Tala returned unexpectedly, a lantern swinging from her hand. I found tracks west of the ridge, she said. Too many horses for hunters. Someone's measuring again. Eliza frowned. Measuring what? The heartbeat of the ground. Tala placed a small pouch on the table. Sage, tobacco, black ash. For protection, she said. Asa's voice hardened. Superstition won't stop dynamite. Neither will denial, Tala replied. Outside, the wind turned restless again. Eliza thought she heard whispering under the boards. When she went to check the window latch, something glittered faintly on the sill. A single drop of dark liquid, shining like oil. She touched it, rubbed her fingers. It smeared black. Asa, she called softly. He joined her, saw the mark. They've tapped it. Tapped? Pressure lines. They're bleeding the well slow to test flow. Her breath caught. That's stealing. It's war, he said, and it's just starting. The lamp flickered, throwing long shadows across the room. Tala stood by the door, watching him. You once rode with soldiers, she said. Do you remember who paid you then? Asa looked away. Don't start. It's already started, she said. You just forgot the language. Eliza stepped between them. Stop. We don't have time for ghosts. Tala's expression softened. Then pray your ghosts don't have names on the payroll. She left before dawn, her mule clattering over frost-bitten stones. Asa stayed outside till the sun cracked the horizon, the silver button turning cold in his palm. When Eliza joined him, he was staring at the well again. You should take the boys to town, he said. And leave you? I've done worse things alone. She shook her head. Then we'll do better things together. He looked at her for a long time as if weighing the cost of hope. Finally he said, Hope's heavy here. Then we'll carry it between us. Behind them, the windmill creaked and groaned, and from the well came a faint metallic sigh, like the earth itself remembering pain. The morning light came slow over Stone Mesa, pale as spilled milk. Eliza woke before the boys, the smell of iron heavy in the air. Asa sat at the table, mending a tear in his coat. His hands were steady, but his eyes were somewhere far off. "You sew?" she asked quietly. He didn't look up. "Used to. Army taught me to fix what they broke." She poured coffee, slid a cup toward him. "They break more than cloth, I guess." His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. The silence between them was a fence neither dared cross. When the boys went outside to feed the hens, Eliza took the coat he'd finished and noticed one sleeve heavier than the other. She pressed along the lining, felt something stiff, paper hidden between stitches. She hesitated, then fetched her needle and cut through the seam. Inside lay a strip of yellowed map, edges burned, words smudged by sweat. Across the center, faint ink read, "Water Division Line, Blackwell Consolidated." Her breath caught. At the corner, 2 signatures, Thomas Rowan and A.S. She stared until the letters blurred. "Asa," she said. "Why's your name on this?" He froze mid-motion, setting down his cup. "Where'd you find that?" "In your sleeve. Or maybe your conscience." He stood, the chair legs scraping the floor. "You shouldn't have touched it. You shouldn't have hidden it." They faced each other in the dim room, firelight twitching on the walls. "It was years ago," he said finally, "before your husband died." Eliza's pulse quickened. "You knew Thomas." "I signed papers for the survey. Thought it was just boundaries for cattle. And it wasn't." "No." He rubbed his temples. "They were marking where the aquifer runs. Your husband. He was the one drawing it." Her throat went dry. "You mean the map that killed him?" Asa looked down. "I didn't know what they'd do with it. Blackwell's men came later. Paid well to stay quiet. I didn't take the money." "But you didn't stop them." "I tried. Too late. Time 700 moms." For a moment, the room shrank to the sound of the wind against the shutters. Eliza whispered, "You could have told me." "And you'd have believed me? Widow of the man I helped bury?" Her hands shook, clutching the map. "He trusted someone named A.S. I thought that meant ally, not accomplice." He flinched, as if the word itself struck. Outside, Toby shouted something about smoke. Eliza rushed to the window. A black column rose beyond the ridge. Asa joined her, grim. "Dry needle." "What's there?" "Old drill site. Should have been sealed years back." "Then who's there now?" He grabbed his rifle. "Someone who shouldn't be." Eliza followed despite his protest. They rode hard through the ravine, dust stinging their eyes. The smell of oil thickened as they neared the canyon. Halfway up the slope, they saw the glint of metal, pipes snaking into the rock, steam hissing. Tala appeared from the shadows, her shawl soaked with sweat. "I told you they were bleeding the land." Asa dismounted. "Who's running it?" She pointed toward a wagon stenciled BWC. Men with drills and no prayers. Eliza knelt by the pipe. The liquid oozing out wasn't water. It shimmered dark red under the sun, slick as blood. Tala whispered, "The earth's crying." Eliza glanced at Asa. "Your signature helped start this." His mouth was a hard line. "Then I'll end it." They turned back toward the ranch, the wind carrying the bitter tang of oil behind them. By dusk, the boys had fallen asleep, and Eliza sat at the table, staring at the fragment of map. She traced the ink where Thomas's name met Asa's. 2 men, one dead, one haunted, the weight of both pressing on her heart. Asa came in, his face gray with dust. He set a small pouch down. "From Tala. Said it's for strength." Eliza didn't touch it. "Strength won't bring him back." "No," Asa said, "but maybe it'll keep you standing." She looked up. "You feel guilty enough to save someone this time?" "Guilt's not what drives me. What does?" He hesitated. "You and those boys. You remind me there's something left worth protecting." For the first time, she didn't look away. "Then prove it." Outside, thunder cracked, though the sky was clear. The sound rolled across the mesa like the groan of something waking underground. Asa went to the door, listening. "They're testing explosives," he said quietly, "to open a new line." Eliza stood beside him, the map clenched in her fist. "Then we have to warn people. No one will believe you. Blackwell owns the sheriff, the land deeds, the church. Then he doesn't own me." She pushed past him, grabbed her shawl, and stepped into the dark. Asa followed, catching her arm. "You go alone, they'll crush you." She met his gaze. "Then come with me." For a long second, neither moved. The wind picked up, carrying the smell of burnt oil. Finally, he nodded. "At first light." That night, Eliza couldn't sleep. She kept hearing her husband's voice, ink scratching across paper, saying, "Truth's only worth something if you live to tell it." She pressed the map to her chest, afraid that truth might die twice. The next morning broke colorless. A thin gray stretched over the mesa like worn cloth. Smoke hung in the distance where the drill site had been. Eliza saddled the mule while Asa checked his rifle. The boys watched from the porch, solemn, as if they knew the day carried more weight than usual. "Stay close to the house," Eliza told Toby. "If anyone comes, go to the cellar." He nodded. "Will you be back before dark?" She hesitated. "I hope so." Asa mounted his horse. "If we're not, light the lamp in the window." Toby's small voice followed them as they rode off. "So you can find your way home?" Asa didn't answer. The word home wasn't one he trusted. The ride to Dry Needle was silent, but for the creak of leather and the whistle of wind. They reached the canyon edge by noon. Smoke still curled from blackened soil. The air reeked of oil and something fouler, burnt earth. Tala waited among the rocks, her shawl drawn tight. "You came late," she said. "We came alive," Asa replied. She pointed toward a pit where crude leaked into a shallow pool. They left in a hurry, took their tools but not their fire. Eliza knelt beside the pool. The reflection of the sun rippled across its surface, warped by the sheen. "Smells like tar." "It's not silver," Tala murmured. "It's black fire." Eliza touched the surface with a stick. The oil clung, slow and heavy. "They're digging for this?" Tala nodded. "Blackwell's men say it's the future. The earth calls it theft." A noise echoed from the ridge, metal clanging, rhythmic. Asa signaled them down. 3 riders crossed above, leading mules burdened with crates. Their coats bore the faded insignia of BWC. "Survey team," Asa whispered. "Or demolition," Tala said. Eliza's pulse raced. "We can't stay here." They waited until the riders disappeared beyond the bend, then slipped down the canyon wall. The ground beneath their boots felt soft, almost hollow. At the base they found tire tracks, narrow and deep. Fresh blood spattered along one. Eliza knelt, voice barely a whisper. "Someone was hurt." Tala's gaze followed the trail to a clump of ash. "Or buried." Asa crouched, turning over a scorched board. The brand BWC gleamed through soot. "They burned evidence." "Or people," Tala said. He kicked dirt over the remains, jaw tight. "Let's move." They rode back under a sky that looked bruised. Halfway home, Eliza broke the silence. "You knew they'd be there." "I guessed." "You guessed right." "That's not comfort," he said. At the ranch, the air felt different, still but listening. The boys were safe, but Maud Kitteridge's wagon stood out front, her bonnet crisp as a preacher's collar. "Well, if it isn't the new lady of Stone Mesa," Maud said, arms crossed. "Town's been whispering again." Eliza stiffened. "About what?" "About wells that glow at night, and a woman who arrived the same week they did." Her tone sharpened. "Sheriff's got reason to check again." Asa stepped between them. "He sets foot here. He'll need a warrant." Maud's eyes narrowed. "I'm sure he'll find one." She climbed back onto her wagon. "Don't trust that quiet, Mrs. Rowan. It's how the desert lies before it swallows." The wagon rolled away, leaving dust and unease behind. Eliza faced Asa. "You can't fight a town with silence." "Been doing it for years." "Not anymore." That evening, Tala joined them for supper. She laid small bones in a circle on the table, humming a tune older than the war. "A warning song," she said. "The kind we sing when men forget to listen." Asa frowned. "You think your songs stop bullets?" "No," Tala said. "They stop us from becoming the kind that fire them." Eliza studied the bones. "What are they for?" "Balance," Tala answered, "between what lives above and what sleeps below." Later, while clearing the plates, Eliza noticed the window glass tremble faintly, though no wind blew. "Asa," she called. He came to her side. The tremor lasted only a moment, but its echo seemed to crawl beneath their feet. "The drills," he said softly. "They're closer." "How close?" "Too close." He stepped onto the porch, eyes fixed toward Dry Needle. A faint glow shimmered on the horizon, orange flickers under the dark. Tala joined him. They'll open the line tonight. They can't, Eliza said. The pressure. We'll break the mesa, Tala finished. Asa turned to her. Then we warn the sheriff. Tala laughed dryly. Warn the man who signs their checks? Eliza looked at him. We'll go ourselves. Before Asa could argue, the ground shuddered again. From the distance came a low boom, followed by a wave of wind carrying the stench of burning oil. The boys rushed out, eyes wide. Pa, the sky's on fire! Asa grabbed his coat. Inside, both of you. He turned to Eliza. We need to see how bad. Tala's voice cut through the rising wind. If the ridge splits, everything south will drown in fire. Eliza's heart pounded. Then we ride. They mounted, racing toward the glow. Flames leapt from the canyon mouth like the breath of something ancient. A pipeline burst, sending a geyser of black smoke curling into the stars. Asa dismounted first, shielding his face. Get back! But Eliza ran forward, throwing her shawl over a smoldering fuse line. She stomped until it died, coughing through the smoke. Asa dragged her back. You trying to die? I'm trying to live here. Tala poured a jar of wet clay over the crack. It'll hold till morning. The three of them stood, breath ragged, staring at the ruined ridge. The fire dimmed, but didn't die. Asa murmured, They'll be back to finish what they started. Eliza wiped soot from her cheek. Then we'll be ready. Behind them, lightning flashed soundless in the clouds, dry and dangerous. The next morning broke colorless. A thin gray stretched over the mesa like worn cloth. Smoke hung in the distance where the drill site had been. Eliza saddled the mule while Asa checked his rifle. The boys watched from the porch, solemn, as if they knew the day carried more weight than usual. Stay close to the house, Eliza told Toby. If anyone comes, go to the cellar. He nodded. Will you be back before dark? She hesitated. I hope so. Asa mounted his horse. If we're not, light the lamp in the window. Toby's small voice followed them as they rode off. So you can find your way home? Asa didn't answer. The word home wasn't one he trusted. The ride to Dry Needle was silent, but for the creak of leather and the whistle of wind. They reached the canyon edge by noon. Smoke still curled from blackened soil. The air reeked of oil and something fouler, burnt earth. Tala waited among the rocks, her shawl drawn tight. You came late, she said. We came alive, Asa replied. She pointed toward a pit where crude leaked into a shallow pool. They left in a hurry, took their tools but not their fire. Eliza knelt beside the pool. The reflection of the sun rippled across its surface, warped by the sheen. Smells like tar. It's not silver, Tala murmured. It's black fire. Eliza touched the surface with a stick. The oil clung, slow and heavy. They're digging for this? Tala nodded. Blackwell's men say it's the future. The earth calls it theft. A noise echoed from the ridge, metal clanging, rhythmic. Asa signaled them down. 3 riders crossed above, leading mules burdened with crates. Their coats bore the faded insignia of BWC. "Survey team," Asa whispered. "Or demolition," Tala said. Eliza's pulse raced. "We can't stay here." They waited until the riders disappeared beyond the bend, then slipped down the canyon wall. The ground beneath their boots felt soft, almost hollow. At the base, they found tire tracks, narrow and deep. Fresh blood spattered along one. Eliza knelt, voice barely a whisper. Someone was hurt. Tala's gaze followed the trail to a clump of ash. Or buried. Asa crouched, turning over a scorched board. The brand BWC gleamed through soot. They burned evidence. "Or people," Tala said. He kicked dirt over the remains, jaw tight. "Let's move." They rode back under a sky that looked bruised. Halfway home, Eliza broke the silence. "You knew they'd be there." "I guessed." "You guessed right." "That's not comfort," he said. At the ranch, the air felt different, still but listening. The boys were safe, but Maud Kitteridge's wagon stood out front, her bonnet crisp as a preacher's collar. "Well, if it isn't the new lady of Stone Mesa," Maud said, arms crossed. "Town's been whispering again." Eliza stiffened. "About what?" "About wells that glow at night, and a woman who arrived the same week they did." Her tone sharpened. "Sheriff's got reason to check again." Asa stepped between them. "He sets foot here, he'll need a warrant." Maud's eyes narrowed. "I'm sure he'll find one." She climbed back onto her wagon. "Don't trust that quiet, Mrs. Rowan. It's how the desert lies before it swallows." The wagon rolled away, leaving dust and unease behind. Eliza faced Asa. "You can't fight a town with silence." "Been doing it for years." "Not anymore." That evening, Tala joined them for supper. She laid small bones in a circle on the table, humming a tune older than the war. "A warning song," she said. "The kind we sing when men forget to listen." Asa frowned. "You think your songs stop bullets?" "No," Tala said. "They stop us from becoming the kind that fire them." Eliza studied the bones. "What are they for?" "Balance," Tala answered, "between what lives above and what sleeps below." Later, while clearing the plates, Eliza noticed the window glass tremble faintly, though no wind blew. "Asa," she called. He came to her side. The tremor lasted only a moment, but its echo seemed to crawl beneath their feet. "The drills," he said softly. "They're closer." "How close?" "Too close." He stepped onto the porch, eyes fixed toward Dry Needle. A faint glow shimmered on the horizon. Orange flickers under the dark. Tala joined him. "They'll open the line tonight." "They can't," Eliza said. "The pressure will break the mesa," Tala finished. Asa turned to her. "Then we warn the sheriff." Tala laughed dryly. "Warn the man who signs their checks?" Eliza looked at him. "We'll go ourselves." Before Asa could argue, the ground shuddered again. From the distance came a low boom, followed by a wave of wind carrying the stench of burning oil. The boys rushed out, eyes wide. "Pa, the sky's on fire!" Asa grabbed his coat. "Inside, both of you!" He turned to Eliza. "We need to see how bad." Tala's voice cut through the rising wind. "If the ridge splits, everything south will drown in fire." Eliza's heart pounded. "Then we ride." They mounted, racing toward the glow. Flames leapt from the canyon mouth like the breath of something ancient. A pipeline burst, sending a geyser of black smoke curling into the stars. Asa dismounted first, shielding his face. "Get back!" But Eliza ran forward, throwing her shawl over a smoldering fuse line. She stomped until it died, coughing through the smoke. Asa dragged her back. "You trying to die?" "I'm trying to live here." Tala poured a jar of wet clay over the crack. "It'll hold till morning." The three of them stood, breath ragged, staring at the ruined ridge. The fire dimmed but didn't die. Asa murmured, "They'll be back to finish what they started." Eliza wiped soot from her cheek. "Then we'll be ready." Behind them, lightning flashed soundless in the clouds, dry and dangerous. The night after Box Arroyo burned, the ranch slept uneasy. Wind hissed through the chinks of the walls, carrying a smell of smoke and rain that never came. Asa sat by the cold hearth, the red scarf from Blackwell still folded in his hand. The boys slept upstairs, and Eliza sat across from him, her face drawn but steady. "You should rest," he said. "I can't," she answered. "Every time I close my eyes, I see the canyon bleeding." Asa leaned forward, elbows on knees. "You did good out there. I almost got you killed." He shook his head. "We were already hunted. You just decided to stop running." They sat in silence for a while, the only sound the crack of cooling embers. Finally, Eliza said, "Tala was right. That land was sacred long before any of us fenced it." Asa looked toward the window. "Long before soldiers drew lines on maps, yeah." Her eyes narrowed. "You said that like a man who's seen those lines drawn." He didn't answer. She stood. "Tell me, Asa, what did you do out there, before all this?" His hand tightened around the scarf. "It won't change anything. It'll change how I see you." For a long moment, his shoulders didn't move. Then he said quietly, "I rode with the 4th Cavalry, Arizona Territory. We were told to clear the canyons for surveyors. Crowley, Blackwell, they paid the contracts." Eliza's voice went soft. "Tala's people." He nodded once. "They said it was empty land, but nothing out there was empty." Flash of memory, gunfire and red dust, cries swallowed by wind, Asa's horse rearing, the smell of oil and blood blending into the same color. "I thought we were bringing peace," he said. "Turns out we were clearing graves." Eliza's eyes glistened. "And now you work the same ground." He met her gaze. "Trying to make it right." Before she could reply, a soft knock came at the door. Tala entered, her braid loose, eyes shining in the lamplight. She looked from Asa to Eliza. "You told her." "I did." Tala set a bundle on the table, dried herbs, a small carved stone. Good. Truth's the only thing heavier than sin. She opened the bundle. Inside lay a small feather wrapped in red thread. This was found near the drilling pit. It's not ours. It's theirs. Eliza frowned. Whose? Men who take without asking. They leave marks even the wind can't erase. Asa unwrapped the thread. The feather was blackened at the tip. Gunpowder. They're preparing another blast, Tala said. The wells aren't enough anymore. They want the deep vein. He stood. When? Tomorrow, before dawn. Eliza caught his arm. If they blow the ridge, the whole mesa could collapse. That's the point, he said grimly. They want to drain it all before the townsfolk catch on. Tala met his eyes. Then we make them see. They left before midnight, Diego joining them halfway down the trail. The moon hung low, thin as a blade. Coyotes sang far off, their cries threading through the dark. Near the ridge they dismounted, moving on foot. The ground vibrated faintly with the rhythm of machines. Tala crouched, touching the sand. They're close. Eliza glanced at Asa. If we get caught, he interrupted. We won't. They crept forward until the drill site came into view. A maze of pipes and lanterns, shadows of men shifting between them. At the center, 2 guards sat smoking beside a cart of dynamite. Asa gestured to Diego. Flank left. Tala whispered, the spirits watch. Make your steps count. They moved like ghosts through the dark. Eliza's heart pounded. She caught a glimpse of a ledger on a barrel, the ink glinting under lamplight. Shipment to Sheriff Briggs, 40 barrels crude. She tore the page loose and slipped it into her coat. One of the guards turned suddenly. Who's there? Eliza froze. Asa grabbed a rock and tossed it across the pit. The man turned, distracted. In that instant, Diego lunged, silencing him with a swift blow. The other tried to run, but Tala's bola caught his legs, dropping him hard. Quick, Asa said. Fuse lines. Eliza knelt by the crates, inspecting the wiring. They've set the charges backward, she murmured. What's that mean? It's time 300 melons. It means they don't care about controlling the blast. Tala sprinkled earth from her pouch along the fuse. Then the land will decide who it swallows. They backed away as the wind shifted. The smell of oil thickened. A voice rang from the ridge. Drop your guns! Briggs stood above them, a lantern in one hand, rifle in the other. Didn't I warn you, Stone? Asa raised his weapon, but didn't fire. You're working for a corpse, Briggs. Blackwell's killing the same land that feeds you. Briggs sneered. You think anyone cares where the water runs, long as it brings gold? Eliza stepped forward. That water belongs to everyone. Not anymore, Briggs said, and neither do you. He cocked his rifle. Tala shouted, Now! And hurled a jar of powder at the lantern. The light exploded, smoke flaring. Asa fired through it. A scream echoed, then silence. When the smoke cleared, Briggs lay sprawled, his badge half buried in the sand. Eliza knelt beside him, picked up the badge and wiped it clean. The engraving gleamed faintly. He wore law-like armor and sold it like iron. Asa turned away. He made his choice. They buried him beneath a cairn of rocks. Tala placed the feather on top. Let the sand judge him. Eliza watched the dawn bleed across the horizon, red as fire through oil. She whispered, "How many graves till this ends?" Asa answered quietly, "Enough to fill the canyon." The next morning dawned pale and cold. A thin frost covered the fence posts, each crystal catching the first gray light. Eliza stirred the coals in the stove while the boys still slept, the sound of the poker scraping metal echoing through the quiet house. She tried not to think of Briggs or the look in Asa's eyes when they buried him. Outside, Asa hammered a new board over the barn door. His movements were steady, measured, but every strike carried a weight that sounded like guilt. When he came inside, he smelled of sawdust and smoke. Eliza poured coffee, her hands shaking slightly. "You slept?" she asked. "Didn't try," he said. "Every time I close my eyes, I see the map that bird dropped." Eliza set a folded paper on the table, the same one. "I studied it." He looked up. "And it's not a survey, it's a diversion plan." She smoothed the edges. Thin red lines ran across the mesa, leading to a single black mark, Stone Well. "They're redirecting the water into the canyon pits." Asa frowned. "That'll drain half the basin, kill the crops and cattle. Kill everything that isn't them," she said. A knock sounded at the door. Diego entered, hat in hand, a small wooden box tucked under his arm. "Found this in Briggs's saddlebag," he said. "Figured it belonged here." Eliza opened it slowly. Inside lay Thomas Rowan's handwriting, the loops and slants she would have known anywhere. Her late husband's journal. The first page read, "Blackwell offered me work on a water line. Said it would help the ranchers. Asa Stone's name is on the contract. He's honest. Maybe he'll keep them straight." Eliza's breath caught. "He trusted you," she whispered to Asa. He bowed his head. "And I trusted the wrong men." She flipped further. The ink grew uneven, frantic. "They're draining not water but oil. Called it black silver. Briggs says no one will know if we burn the maps. I must warn Asa." The entry stopped mid-sentence, the ink blotted. Eliza's fingers trembled. "He died trying to reach you." Asa swallowed hard. "And I kept living like I didn't owe him a reckoning." Tala appeared at the doorway, quiet as smoke. "The earth doesn't keep debts. People do." Eliza closed the journal carefully. "Then let's pay it." They rode out before noon, following the trail marked on the map. The wind carried a sour scent, burnt oil, gunpowder, and something like rain left too long in a bucket. The trail led to a gorge west of Stone Mesa. There, a cluster of tents and wagons sprawled across the ridge. Blackwell's men worked like ants, feeding barrels into the ground. Tala shaded her eyes. "They're pulling from both ends now." Diego dismounted. "We can't just ride in shooting." Eliza dismounted too. "No, we need proof." She crept toward a supply wagon, crouched behind the wheels. Inside, stacked ledgers and letters filled a wooden crate. She pulled one free and read aloud under her breath. To Sheriff Briggs, transfer payment, hush order regarding Rowan accident. Her chest tightened. Accident. She shoved the letter into her satchel, grabbed another envelope. Inside, a torn page bore Thomas's signature and a half-written confession. If I disappear, tell Eliza the well is not what it seems. The rest was burned away. Behind her, a voice shouted, "Hey!" Eliza spun, eyes wide. A worker loomed with a pistol. She froze. Asa appeared from the shadows and swung the rifle butt into the man's jaw, dropping him. "Go!" he hissed. They scrambled for the horses, bullets whizzing past. Diego fired back, keeping the shooters at bay while Tala scattered ashes from her pouch. Smoke billowed, covering their retreat. When they reached the ridge, Eliza looked back. Flames licked through the camp. They'll rebuild by dawn. Asa gritted his teeth. Not if we reach town first. They rode through dusk, the horizon bleeding red. By the time they reached Ash Hollow, lanterns flickered in windows like wary eyes. Maud Kitteridge stood on her porch, arms folded tight. "You brought trouble back," she said. Eliza slid off her horse, exhausted. Trouble was already here. Maud's gaze softened when she saw the boys clinging to the saddle. "You've got the look of someone who's seen hell." "Hell's working shifts under Blackwell's flag," Asa said. Maud's jaw tightened. "Then you'll need more than truth to fight him." She reached inside her apron and produced a folded paper. Blackwell's rail shipment. Heads for El Paso tomorrow. With it, half the town's payroll. Eliza stared. "You want us to stop it?" "I want to see him broke," Maud said. "That's justice enough." Diego whistled low. "A moving vault." Asa took the paper. "Then we cut him off at Dead Man's Switch." Maud nodded once. "Just don't make me regret helping you." That night at the ranch, rain began to fall, thin and cold, like forgiveness testing the ground. The fire burned low as Eliza unfolded the half-burned letter again. Her fingers traced Thomas's name until the ink smudged. Asa watched from the doorway. "You still love him," he said quietly. "I still owe him truth." He nodded slowly. "Then let's give it to him." Outside, thunder rolled low across the mesa. Tala whispered an old word to the storm, one meaning both ending and beginning. In the flicker of lightning, Eliza saw Asa's shadow against the wall. Broad, still, unyielding. A man built for battle who had finally found something worth saving. By nightfall, the rain had stopped, leaving the earth slick and breathing. The moon rose low over the mesa, pale as a tarnished coin. Asa stood beside the corral, tightening the straps on his rifle. His shirt was still damp from the storm. Every sound carried far in that wet silence. A coyote's cry, the faint rattle of a loose shutter. Eliza joined him, a lantern in hand. "The boys are asleep," she said. He nodded. "Keep 'em that way." She studied his face, lines deeper, eyes darker. "You plan to ride out alone?" Dead Man's Switch is narrow, One wrong move and we'll block our own exit. I'll need speed more than numbers." "You'll need luck," she said. He looked at her. "You don't believe in luck." "I don't," Eliza answered. "That's why I'm coming." Tala stepped out of the shadows then, her braid bound tight, Diego beside her with his arm in a sling. "You'll need more than bullets," Tala said. "The ground out there remembers every sin. And tonight, it's listening." Asa didn't argue. "Then let's give it something worth remembering." They rode out before dawn. The world was half mist, half fear. Hoofbeats echoed off stone. The path curved between two cliffs, a place people said swallowed travelers whole. Dead Man's Switch had earned its name from the dynamite miners used to blast the ridge decades ago. Most of it was abandoned. Most. Diego guided the lantern low. "You sure the convoy's coming this way?" "They'll take the narrow road to hide the cargo," Asa said. "No one expects ambush where the dead already lie." Tala whispered something in Diné. The wind rose, circling her words. They reached a ledge overlooking the canyon floor. Below, torchlight moved like fireflies. Wagons, riders, a dozen armed men guarding 3 black carriages. The crest on each wagon door gleamed in the torchlight. BWC. Blackwell Consolidated. Eliza's throat tightened. "There it is." Diego grinned through his pain. "And here we are." Asa dismounted. "Positions." They split. Diego and Tala down the slope. Eliza staying near Asa on the ridge. Rain clouds rolled again, muting the stars. As the first wagon passed beneath, Asa raised his hand. "Now." Tala hurled a jar of powder onto the path. The explosion thundered through the gorge, scattering the lead riders. Horses reared, men shouted. Eliza fired twice, dropping the lanterns. Darkness swallowed the convoy. Gunfire cracked from below. Diego whooped, returning shots. Tala's shadow moved like smoke among the rocks. One wagon overturned, spilling barrels that rolled and burst. Not silver, not grain, but oil. Thick and black, it spread fast across the stone. Eliza gagged at the smell. "They're hauling crude, not gold." Asa's eyes hardened. "It's all they ever wanted." He leapt down, boots skidding on wet rock. A mercenary charged him, knife raised. Asa swung his rifle like a hammer. The man fell. Another came. He turned, fired once. The canyon flared white. Eliza slid down after him, dress torn, pistol shaking in her hand. "Asa, the back wagon!" He turned. The rear carriage was pulling away, driver whipping the horses hard. "Go!" he barked. Eliza mounted one of the loose horses and rode after it, hair whipping in the wind. Bullets sparked off the rocks. She ducked low, drew even with the wagon. The driver turned his gun. She slammed her boot against the wheel, knocking him off balance. He fired wild, missing her but hitting the oil drum. Flame shot out the back like a breath from hell. Eliza jumped clear as the wagon burst, fire swallowing its cargo. She hit the ground hard, rolling. Asa was there in seconds, hauling her up. "You alive?" "Ask me later." Behind them, Tala and Diego wrestled the lead wagon open. Inside, a steel chest sat chained to the floor. Diego grunted. Got it! Move! Asa shouted. They dragged the chest up the slope as the canyon burned below. The sky glowed orange, smoke curling into the storm. When they reached the ridge, Eliza dropped to her knees, coughing. What's in it? Asa broke the lock with his rifle butt. The lid creaked open, revealing ledgers, deeds, and sealed letters, all bearing the mark of Blackwell Consolidated. He lifted one. Purchase orders for land from Ash Hollow to the Dene Valley, all under false names. Eliza read another. Relocation notices. They were planning to move every family off the mesa. Tala touched the papers. He's bleeding the land dry and calling it progress. Lightning cracked overhead, striking the far side of the canyon. The burning oil roared to life, rolling toward the lower ridge. Diego shouted, Flood! The fire's melting the dam! Asa turned. We have to move! But the roar was already deafening. Water, mud, and oil bursting through the canyon like a beast unchained. They ran for the high rocks, scrambling as the flood swallowed the path below. Barrels and wagons vanished beneath the surge. At the top, Eliza looked down. The evidence! Asa grabbed her hand. We've got what matters. From below came a single scream, lost in the crashing water. Then silence. When the rain eased, the canyon lay drowned. The flood had erased everything but the smell of oil and the faint glint of steel where the wagons once stood. Eliza turned to Asa, breath ragged. He'll come for us himself now. Asa nodded. Let him. He's out of men, but we've still got truth. Tala watched the sky, where lightning flickered like fire over water. The land has spoken, she said, but it won't rest until he's buried in it. Morning came without light. Smoke covered the sky, thick and gray as grief. The mesa groaned beneath the weight of mud and ruin. Asa stood on what was left of the ridge, the wind tugging at his coat. Below, the canyon still hissed, water steaming where oil burned out. The land looked wounded, but alive. Eliza climbed up beside him, her skirt torn and face streaked with soot. It's over? She asked. Asa shook his head. Not yet. A distant horn echoed from the east. Then hoofbeats, heavy, deliberate. Tala appeared, pointing toward the valley road. He's coming. They watched as riders crested the rise, men in black coats, armed, leading wagons bearing the BWC seal. At their head rode Vernon Blackwell, his horse pale as ash, his eyes cold as quartz. Diego swore softly. Devil rides early. Eliza squared her shoulders. Then we meet him standing. Asa handed her a rifle. You ever fired one of these before? She took it. I've fired worse. They descended to the ranch, where the ground still shimmered with wet clay. Toby and Micah waited on the porch, fear in their faces. Eliza knelt. Inside, both of you. Keep the door barred until I say. Toby nodded, jaw set like his mother's. Asa and Diego stacked feed sacks along the corral fence, building cover. Tala spread wet blankets over the barn roof. It'll slow the fire, she said. Hoofbeats grew louder. Voices followed, shouting, cruel and sure of themselves. Then they came. A dozen men rode in, rifles raised, mud flying. At their center, Blackwell dismounted, his boots sinking into the muck. He looked around, at the burned fields, the broken fences, the bodies half buried by the flood, and smiled faintly. "Mr. Stone," he said, brushing dust from his sleeve, "you've made quite a mess of progress." Asa stepped forward. "Progress don't mean killing men for water." Blackwell's smile didn't falter. "It means order, and order demands sacrifice. This land will feed the future. You, however," he drew his pistol, "you're yesterday's mud." A shot cracked, not from him. Eliza fired from the porch, hitting the ground near his boots. "You talk too much," she said. The standoff shattered. Gunfire exploded across the yard. Asa dove behind a trough, returning shots. Diego took the flank, his wounded arm pressed against his side, firing one-handed. Tala moved like a shadow, striking from behind barrels, her bullets clean and merciless. Smoke filled the air. Horses screamed. Eliza reloaded, eyes fixed on the porch where Toby clutched Micah close. A bullet grazed the railing inches from them. "Get down!" she shouted. Asa's voice roared through the chaos. "Drive them to the well!" They fell back, step by step, forcing Blackwell's men toward the old pit behind the barn. The ground there was unstable. The flood had loosened the earth. When only Blackwell and 2 men remained, Asa advanced, rifle steady. "End of the line, Blackwell." The tycoon's eyes gleamed. "You think the earth's on your side? It bends to the highest bidder." He fired. Asa stumbled, bullet slicing his arm. Eliza cried out, rushing forward, dragging him behind a barrel. "I'm fine," he muttered. Blood soaked his sleeve. "Stay low." Blackwell reloaded slowly, savoring it. "You killed my men, burned my oil, ruined my investment. But I'll have your name carved on the title deed when this is done." Asa rose again, fury burning through pain. "You wanted to own the earth." Blackwell sneered. "And I do." Asa's shot came like thunder. It struck the ground near the well. The old boards splintered. Then the earth itself began to shift. The well groaned, cracked, then collapsed inward. Blackwell stumbled, shouting, "What did you—" The ground split beneath him. Water, thick and dark, surged upward, swallowing the dirt around his boots. Asa stepped closer, voice steady. "It owns you." Blackwell reached for his gun, but the earth gave way. With one last roar, he vanished into the pit, the water bubbling like breath. Silence followed, broken only by the hiss of steam and the slow settling of soil. Diego lowered his rifle. "That did it?" "Time 400 mounds." Asa nodded once, staring at the ruined well. "It did." Tala stepped forward, pulling a small pouch from her belt. She sprinkled dark soil over the edge of the pit and whispered, "The water remembers. Let it rest." Eliza placed a hand on Asa's shoulder. "You can stop fighting now." He exhaled, long and heavy. "Been fighting my whole life. Not sure I know what else to do." She looked toward the rising sun. the first light breaking through the smoke. Then start with peace. They turned as townsfolk arrived. Maud at the lead, Sheriff Briggs behind her, his badge hanging loose. Maud's voice rang out. "You've shamed Mercy long enough, Briggs. We saw your letters." She held up the ledger. "Your law ends here." The sheriff's face blanched. He dropped his gun belt, stepped back. Tala nodded toward him. "Let the land judge him." Briggs fled down the road, leaving the badge in the mud. The wind shifted, carrying the smell of rain again, clean this time. Asa watched the horizon. "Guess it's over." Eliza smiled faintly. "No, it's just starting to heal." The dawn came soft and golden, spilling over the broken hills like mercy. The storm had passed, leaving puddles that mirrored the sky. The land of Stone Mesa breathed again. Damp, quiet, and free of smoke for the first time in months. Eliza stood at the doorway of the ranch house, apron dusted with flour. Her hands worked dough on the table, slow and steady, shaping the first loaf baked in peace. The smell of yeast and ash filled the air, mingling with the faint sweetness of mesquite wood burning in the stove. Behind her, Toby and Micah stacked kindling, their laughter soft but certain. Each sound felt like a promise, fragile, real. Asa entered quietly, boots muddy, shirt torn but clean now. His bandaged arm hung by his side. He stopped when he saw her. "Smells like home," he said. Eliza smiled without looking up. "It's bread. Home comes later." He stepped closer, watching her fold the dough. "Still don't believe in luck?" She met his eyes. "No, only in work and mercy when it shows itself." He nodded. "Then I reckon we earned both." The oven door closed with a soft thud. Outside, the sun crept higher, turning the wet grass into a field of light. Tala stood by the fence, murmuring in Diné, sprinkling soil over the new well Asa had dug. Water glimmered clear, reflecting her face. "The land remembers," she said, "and forgives slowly." Diego limped past with a hammer in hand. "Fence won't fix itself," he muttered, but his grin was wide. Eliza brought out the fresh bread and set it on the porch rail. Asa joined her, shoulders brushing lightly. The heat from the loaf rose between them. Toby ran up, breathless. "Mama, the well's clear again." She wiped her hands on her apron and knelt. "Go fetch a cup. Let's see if it tastes like freedom." Micah returned first, carrying the small tin cup with both hands. The water shimmered silver blue. Eliza took a sip, then passed it to Asa. He drank, closed his eyes, and for the first time in years, smiled. "Clean, clean," she echoed. Tala approached, holding a string of beads. "For the house," she said. "So the spirits of water and flame stay balanced." She hung it on the post beside the door. The beads caught the light like tiny suns. Asa turned to Eliza. "You could leave if you wanted. Ash Hollow's open again." She looked out toward the hills. The town sat far beyond them, small and sharp, like a memory better left behind. There's nothing there for me now, she said. Here, the boys can run without fear, and I can bake without asking. He hesitated. Then stay. She smiled softly. You ask that like it's easy. He pulled a small, tarnished object from his pocket. The silver star he'd once worn as a deputy, its edges worn smooth. He set it on the table. I'm done soldiering. She looked at the badge, then at him. And what'll you be now? He shrugged. A man learning how to live. She placed her hand over his. Then start with breakfast. They ate quietly, the kind of silence that meant peace, not fear. Bread, beans, a little salt. The boys chattered between bites, arguing over who could ride the mare first once the fences were mended. When the plates were cleared, Asa walked out to the yard, stopping beneath the old cottonwood where the flood had stopped. From his coat, he pulled a piece of wood carved rough, the shape of a wolf and her cubs. He nailed it above the door. Eliza stepped beside him. What's it for? He smiled. Remembrance. So we don't forget what teeth the world has, or what heart it hides. She looked at him for a long moment, then whispered, Asa, what now? He reached into his vest, drew out a folded piece of parchment. Land deed. Your name's on it. So's mine. It's ours. Proper. Her throat tightened. You didn't have to. I did, he said simply. You fed my hope when I'd buried it. You made this place worth keeping. Tears filled her eyes. She blinked them away with a smile. You sure about that? He chuckled. Only thing I've ever been sure of. The boys burst out of the barn then, laughing, chasing a chicken across the yard. The bird squawked, feathers flying. For a moment, the whole ranch came alive with light. Tala called out, The land breathes with you now. Time 500 pounds. Eliza leaned against the doorway, the smell of bread and sun around her. Maybe it finally forgave us. Asa slipped an arm around her waist, tentative, careful. She didn't pull away. You staying for good? He asked quietly. She looked toward the horizon, where the light broke free from the last of the clouds. I already am, she said. The wind lifted, carrying the scent of sage and rain. Somewhere a hawk cried, not mourning, but calling. Over the porch, the carved wolves watched the morning, and below them, on the gate newly painted, hung a wooden sign freshly carved by Diego's steady hand. Stone Mesa Ranch, all are fed here. The bread cooled on the rail, the water ran clear, and for the first time the land, the people, and their ghosts breathed the same air, clean, warm, and whole. In the wide silence of the West, hearts heal slow, but they do heal. Stone Mesa Ranch reminds us that love doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it comes with bread shared, fences mended, and hands held after too many storms. Eliza and Asa's story isn't just about survival. It's about grace, forgiveness, and finding home again when the world tried to take it away. If this story stirred a memory in you of someone you once loved, a place that felt like home, or the quiet courage it takes to start over, we'd love to hear it. Share your thoughts and stories in the comments below. Every word you write helps keep these Western tales alive for the next rider passing through. If you enjoyed Stone Mesa Ranch, don't forget to